Okay, 51551 on RTE.ie, and Hozier joins us in studio as promote. How are you doing?
Hey, good.
Is it Andrew, Andy? I know you probably ask this all the time.
You
but
can call me Andrew, Andy. Very, very happy.
Okay,
Very happy to be
right.
called.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, listen. Thanks a million for coming in, and congratulations. Nina Cried Power is the new EP, and Nina Cried Power is the lead song. It's brilliant. I love it. I've listened to it about 15 times already.
Thank you.
We live in a different world now. So when you released that last night,
Yeah.
it was on Spotify at 7:30 or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
global and immediate.
Yeah. It is. It kind of goes out, and it can be listened to anywhere in the world. Yeah, very, very quickly. Yeah. So it is amazing how things have changed even since the last release of the first album. The kind of way music is consumed and shared and whatever has changed again. So it is so quick, and I suppose that's why I was kind of eager as well too to have a couple of releases, to do an EP and give people a taste. And then I've recorded so much material we can even looking after beyond the album itself. I'm hoping to have music.
Like, how many songs are we talking? How many songs would you have?
Did we end up recording nearly? I think ones that were kind of in the ones that were in the okay, these are listenable, or at least these I'm happy to share with people.
Okay.
We're in the kind of in the 20 margin. So,
And do you have songs that you keep for yourself that you're not willing to share with people?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
You get a lot of ones that fall on the cutting floor.
I know, but I mean, they fall on the cutting floor. Would
Yeah.
you revisit them yourself, just to listen back to them? Or?
You sometimes do. You kind of keep a bit of a junkyard of ideas, so you kind of have a scrap heap of half finished or half baked ideas, or and sometimes they end up in a demo. Sometimes that demo doesn't make it. Sometimes you can recycle a bit of it. Yeah.
And was yesterday stressful? Was it like, going to the Debs, with the girl that you really fancy, or waiting for that moment? Because it's 4 years. Like, there was the Tarzan song in the middle, but it was 4 years.
Yeah.
And so much has been written about you.
Yeah.
Huge anticipation, expectation, all that.
Yeah.
Pressure.
I was lucky. I was kept fairly busy, so I actually completely forgot.
Go on.
No, not that I forgot. I knew that it was happening, but I hadn't internalized it. So basically, I got up. We had a gig on Wednesday. Thursday I got up, and then I went for, I think, got a couple of interviews, which went all well. And then I had to go to an optician's appointment. I'm going away for ages, so I haven't had an eye test. So I was doing those bits, like, I need a haircut, I need to get my eye test, done. Had a couple of interviews, and then by the time I got back to Caroline, to the manager, I completely, they'd champagne open and they were listening to its first play on radio.
Yeah.
And I had completely forgot that was a thing that let's celebrate that. Yeah, that's great. So I kind of was kept busy enough to not.
Do you wear contacts or?
I wear contacts. Yeah,
on stage.
Yeah, on stage I would. Yeah. I would. I don't want to be squinting. I'd be squinting at everybody if I wasn't. I can get by without them, but yeah, it's much easier with contacts on.
So Maeve Staples, who is a legend, and Booker T, another legend, both feature on the song. Both of them are like touching 80. You're touching 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's a 50-year age gap there.
Yeah. I suppose, I think they were still, so Booker T, and something I was very grateful to be able to tell him as well when he was in London with us for the week. Like, some of the first examples I'd heard of soul music was arrangements by Booker T and the MGs, and the work he did as the Stax house band. So all of the Otis Redding's hits, a lot of Sam Cooke, and a lot of Sam and Dave as well too.
They were the backing band for it.
Yeah. So and then of course Booker T and the MGs, which is like
Yeah.
So like total classic. So there was a kind of, when I was a kid listening to that stuff, I'd never heard soul music before, and then that kind of flipped the switch in my head, and that never kind of switched off. So would be a hero of mine, and Maeve Staples also as well. Somebody who's just an amazing legacy. Like, as I was kind of growing up and then listening more to blues and soul and gospel music, the Staples singers are just such an incredible group, and such an important part as well too of the civil rights era in America as well too. And I think that song, but it kind of it draws a lot from the spirit of those times, and I think
Yeah.
it was super.
Because Mavis and Nina Simone, and Nina's obviously name checked in the title, she was
Mm-hmm.
a big civil rights person as well.
Yeah, just a firebrand, you know.
Amazing women.
Yeah.
I watched the clip before I came down of you singing with Mavis Staples at the Electric Picnic, and it nearly brought a tear to my eye.
Thanks very much.
No, but it was so moving, and there was so much mutual respect between the two of you, and there's lovely body language going on. And I suppose music crosses generations. That's the key, isn't it? Really?
That's what's amazing about it, I suppose. And like, I was lucky, I think, as a kid that all the music that I was listening to, the music that my dad just had playing in the house, and then was music that was kind of before my time, and so. But it was very, like, blues music is it's a very, I won't say it's an adult music, but it deals with very, very adult kind of longing and grief and joy as well too. So when I was a kid, once I got a kind of a taste in that, I found it very hard to enjoy pop music of the 90s in the same way. I could enjoy it for its melody and stuff like that, but there was something that was real visceral about blues music and soul music. But
would you be happy now just to do, blues and soul for the rest of your life? Yeah, it strikes me, maybe I get you wrong completely, but you mentioned pop there, that you don't have too much concern for a hit.
Yeah,
So, is that
you could I put it to you this way, you could chase the kind of pop hit thing, and yes, when you listen to a lot of pop music, not to be disparaging, there is, there's a formula there, and there's a way to go about it. But I'm not terribly interested in. I don't think it's, for me anyway, for what I'd rather be doing. I don't think it's terribly worthwhile. I put it to you this way. My influences are people like Stevie Wonder and like Paul Simon, obviously, and like Tom Waits was a big one for me. But then other, like, jazz artists and soul artists and whatever. So like Al Green.
They all had hits. They all
did have hits, I suppose. But I mean, even by today's standards, they all had hits. Yeah. But I'd rather, like, I'd rather be kind of trying to live up to your influences, or live up to the legacy of your influences, by making music that they might go, actually, you know what, I like that song.
Yeah. And there's obviously a social conscience in there. I read somewhere that you're a news junkie, so you're looking at the world critically now.
I certainly came off the road with too much time on my hands, and I started reading. Yeah, just reading the news. And
what did you read? Just news or books or?
No, it was just like, I think it was just a kind of that constant 24-hour news cycle thing of, like, White House correspondence, and then it just a lot of kind of I suppose a lot of kind of political correspondence from around the world, and just with too much time on my hands, just the kind of dizzying information overload of that, and it's all not good news.
No.
So at the time, I kind of had to step away from that. I think early in the first few months of 2017, I just realized I was making myself sick looking at it. So, but like the
it was bringing you down, was it?
It's just bringing me down, yeah. And the album, the album to come, kind of has that. I think a certain amount of that sense of doom that hangs above it. This kind of feeling of powerlessness, and this feeling of, like, heading towards a waterfall or a cliff that you can't veer off course, and yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, you say time's fleeting.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But you're a very young man. What impresses me most is like you did Home Sweet Home, Apollo House thing. Then you did Stand for Truth when the Pope was here. I met you at Laura Lynn turning on the lights last Christmas.
That was nice.
Yeah, the 3 gigs you're doing this week are for charities 1 and 4, Peter McVerry, Safe Ireland. So you're tuned in and you want to make a difference.
Yeah, I suppose you do these things because you can. That kind of way.
But a lot of people can and don't.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know what.
You're drawn to certain things.
Yeah, certainly.
So say stand for truth. Then what drew you to that?
I thought it was an important time. If I was to look back in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, what was I doing the weekend the Pope was in town? on a time when there was another revelation of a further on
Atrocity in
global scale
yeah.
cover up, a criminal cover up. What did you do when he was there? Well, I was there standing for the people whose lives were affected and irreparably damaged in some cases. And there's a lot of people who, like survivors of that legacy, survivors of abuse, or survivors of the laundries. And there's a lot of people who didn't survive, and those are our citizens, and those are, and I think what Colin O'Gorman said something very, very lovely there was like, what does it mean to to care for one another? What does it really mean to show love for your fellow people and for your fellow man, woman, and child? And I think that was a wonderful act of that care.
What do you think it means?
Well, I think it's a good start to kind of to recognize that hurt and that suffering, and to stand by it and show up for it.
So 2014, you sort of exploded onto the scene, although you've been singing away before that, obviously, and working away. And it must have been a seismic shift in your perception of yourself. Mm-hmm. Was it, or was it?
It can be, yeah. So you kind of just don't think about it as much as possible, yeah. It wasn't until I got back to Dublin that I kind of had to be faced with the thought that, people know who I am now. Because when I was on the road, you live on a bus and then you're in a venue, so you're used to crowds shouting at you because they bought a ticket, they know who you are. But then when you're back in Dublin and you're sitting in a pub and somebody, there's your man, there goes your man. That's very odd, because I just, it took me some time to.
And were you happy in your skin before you became Hozier, the rock star?
I don't know how to answer that.
But honestly, I'd prefer.
I think I was as best as could be. I didn't think. I didn't consider what. Because you're just basically doing what you think is you need to be doing at that time. You're just making a song. You're making and it was it was an indie release. Like and it was at first when Take Me to Church was on Bandcamp for free for a good month or something. It was a free download, and then its thing started snowballing. So so for me it was just like I was a college dropout of a few years, who went to be very idle and started just working on the stuff at home. And so yeah, it kind of, I don't know, when you're in your young 20s,
you don't think like that.
Yeah,
you don't think like that.
Yeah, I was a kid, but
you're
know
thinking
what I mean?
differently now, though.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, you're more mature, obviously.
A bit more mature,
yeah.
And I think you age a lot in your 20s. Like you meet somebody in their young 20s. I know. Even now, I said this as a young man still, of course, but like looking back to me being 21, 22, I had no idea what was going on in my head.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And crazy time then, you did everything, all the American chat shows, all the concerts, Victoria's Secret's models thing. Is there anything, not singling that out, that you regret? Is there anything that you were sort of?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I won't say I regret. I won't say regret because, like,
that's given if it was tomorrow.
Given tomorrow, that I would love to do again. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And what would?
I mean, I suppose like what kind of my second time in front of a television screen was or in front of a camera was the David Letterman show. We did other voices, and then within what feels like a matter of weeks or something, we were doing, or in a very, very short space of time anyway, we were doing David Letterman. So I remember doing David Letterman, and we had a really long day of promo. I had sang Take Me to Church maybe 4 times that day at different stations and different VH1 things and whatever. And then, so a really long kind of stressful day, and I just remember being really unhappy with that performance. But that was the American TV show which at the time I was most familiar with, and it was like I was just so green. So looking back, I was as green as the grass. Like I really was new to it. So there's a lot of kind of but I wouldn't say I can regret it, because we were kind of.
We do differently, I suppose.
Differently, yeah. But it was there was a lot of sink or swim moments, and like the fact that we've kind of been through it all. We've been thrown into a lot of, you just do it. You kind of, you just
go with the flow.
You just go with it.
Yeah. And was there a point then when you came back and you started looking at the news and all that you decided that you wanted more control, or?
No, I mean, we had a fantastic tour. I was very fortunate that the music reached audiences such that we could tour in the way that we did. And I've always had like creative control on all the work, and the label have always been fantastic in giving me time and space. So when I got home, I took a breather. It was good. It was important for me to kind of reconnect with family. But like I never had a label or management banging on the desk asking for them. I was which I think was important. And I think it was important for the work and important for my own headspace as well too. So.
What about fans and adoration?
Yeah, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. I don't know how to start with that. Yeah.
Do you get things in the post?
Yeah. Like
what sorts of things?
No, I couldn't.
You can't even tell us.
I can't. I get. Yeah, you get letters.
Do you get underwear in the post? Have you ever?
I haven't got underwear.
You haven't got underwear.
Haven't got underwear.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've got other strange things in the post.
You get things in the post. Yeah, you do. And like, I think when there's goodwill and there's a lot of goodwill behind it, and there's a lot of good, people are very good natured and kind. There's a lot of kindness behind it, and there's a lot of familiarity. People do it because you're familiar to them and they feel familiar. You feel familiar to them. But yeah, like I being at home is why I kind of live in a kind of quiet spot in Wicklow as well too. I think home is home for me. It's kind of the place where you're just Andrew. You're just Andrew. Yeah, I'm just Andy. So when there's Hozier,
you make a cup of tea there.
Yeah, when there's and putting the bins out, stuff like that. Once a week. When there's posts coming in, Hozier posts coming in, it's different. That's you have to reconcile that in some way. But yeah.
And what about because obviously there's the fans who are there, but then you're moving around, you're going to functions, you're at festivals, and then people, they're attracted to you and they come up to you and they.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
I think the best way is, and like you have to be skeptical of people's praise of you. You have to be. You really do. And I'm a firm believer in not believing your own hype and not believing your own BS as well too. So, I think that's important. So,
yeah. I see people didn't know who Nina was, so they wanted to know who Nina was.
Yeah, Nina Simone.
Yes, yeah, well, but I suppose people would be asking the NFWMB, which is never F with my baby.
And nothing fups with.
Oh, yeah, it's nothing, sorry. So the baby in that, is that anybody in particular? Really, what I'm asking you, are you going out with anybody?
I'm not.
that's it.
At the moment, no. Sadly, I think. But that's kind of just like a love song for the end of the world. I suppose that I do like that song quite a bit. But there's not really. I suppose it's more of a fantasy person. But no, at the moment I'm like
too busy. Are you in a boy band or something?
Busy.
Too busy touring.
And I've been living on a bus now until Christmas, so it does not terribly cohesive with not the best place to start a relationship. But yeah, I think because I'll be gone for a while, and it is a kind of. It has been, and I have to say this album, I've never worked as hard on anything, and I've never been as busy before. The first launch was like, as I said, it was free online. We were trying to get people to download it and listen to it, and so there wasn't like. So
you'll be doing 20 or 30 interviews over the coming week.
Yeah, exactly. It's super. It's busy. Yeah. So and I'm kind of readjusting to that. So it's a good time not to have to be there for somebody emotionally. I'd find that tricky.
Right. Good politician answer there.
Yeah.
So tonight it's in the Academy. Is that the last of three?
That's the last of three.
Live rehearsals. How have they been going?
They've been going okay. The crowd have been super sweet. So even Monday night we did a gorgeous crowd. Very kind. I forgot the words at some point, and they were the best. But they were rehearsals, and we're making that very clear to people. They are live rehearsals. But last night, Wednesday night, I should say, was smashing. And crowd again were amazing. Just playing a Dublin crowd is so good.
They love you.
They're good. They're good folks.
And when will you be doing bigger ones in Ireland?
I will. I'd say we'll be back, but we'll be back just before Christmas. So I would. I don't know if they've been announced yet. But we definitely will be back for shows before Christmas.
Nina Cried Power is available to download with NFWMB, Moment Silence, and Shrike. Shrike's a singing bird or a songbird?
Shrike is it's kind of it's a bird of prey.
Oh, bird of prey. It's not a songbird.
It does have I think it does have a song, but it is
while it's killing you.
While it's killing you, yeah, vicious little thing.
We'll play out with Nina Cried Power. Tomorrow night on the telly, we're back 9:35. Mary Wilson's on the way. Hozier, real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And this is Nina Cried Power. Have a great weekend.